Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on today's video. If you are watching on Thanksgiving Day, you're a real one. Thank you for taking some time out of your precious day to spend it with me and talk about fragrance. I posted this on Thanksgiving Day on purpose because I wanted to be able to say thank you. On Thanksgiving Day, I think about what I'm grateful for. I think about my health. I think about my family. I think about all of the fantastic experiences over my lifetime and all of the opportunities that have been afforded to me, to those I love, to my friends, and all of that. And being here on YouTube and talking about fragrance of all things has certainly been one of those fabulous opportunities. I started this channel about a year, almost 2 years ago at this point. It'll be 2 years in December. And I've met some really fabulous people through the channel, people that I call my virtual friends. We may not have met in person, but I still think of you as friends of mine and part of my extended virtual family. I appreciate each and every one of you every time you click on a video and spend a few minutes of your precious day with me. And if you have subscribed, thank you for being a subscriber and for your support. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. So this is volume 5 of what I've come to call Blind Buy Chronicles, which is my way of sharing with you the fragrances that I have purchased recently. It could be in the last few months, how they have worked out, and in some cases not worked out for me. So if you're into that sort of thing, I will link the other 4 volumes below, and someday I'll get my life together and create a whole playlist so that all of the ones in the future can go in that playlist. And if you like to binge watch videos like I do, I watch a lot of YouTube also, you can click on that playlist and have some fun. I would also love your opinion on cold shoulder sweaters because they're called cold shoulder for a reason. My shoulders are cold. This is my first time wearing something like this, but my husband thinks they are funny and cannot understand why would you want your shoulders out and cold? And I agree, although I think it's a little kind of stylish. I do have a shameless plug if you'll indulge me for just a few seconds here. I have a second channel that's called Essential Veronica. It used to be called Everyday Veronica, but I changed the name. Long story as to why. But over there's a lot of chatty, like life talks, there's makeup, get ready with me, there's review of hair products, there's like Sephora and Ulta hauls, there's Amazon talk, there's home decorating talk, general chat. So if you like that kind of video where you can just click in and hang out with the person for 20, 30, sometimes longer minutes, please feel free to join me over there. And if you like Instagram photos and reels and that sort of thing, I am on Instagram at Essential Veronica and encourage you to join me there as well. Thanks so much. Let's go on and talk about these fragrances. I have 20, I think, that I'm going to share with you, and a few that I may have talked about before in other videos where I did like a review or they were part of a list or something that I was sharing. But that doesn't mean that you saw those videos, so I'll include them here again. Let's jump in. So everyone knows that I'm a discount shopper and I occasionally peruse fragrancenet.com, Fragrance by CA, Fragrance X, PerfumeOnline.com, all of those discount sites just to see what's new, what shipments have they gotten in. And recently on fragrancenet.com, Moresque fragrances started to show up. They are pretty expensive fragrances, so I was happy to see them on there on discount. I picked up 4, and I'm happy to say that for me personally, all 4 are wins. I'm going to start with Contessa. And let me first say that one of the things that I appreciate about one of the lines of Moresque is that they are beautiful hand-painted bottles. So they're just like little works of art when they sit on your shelf. And if you're the kind of person that loves an aesthetically pleasing perfume bottle, look at this and look at the next one that I'm going to talk about, Sandal Granada. Preview. This fragrance, when I first tried it, I thought, okay, that is all right. I'm not sure that it's that special. However, the magic with this came when I actually put it on. This is a beautiful fragrance here as we go into the holidays. In fact, it would make a fabulous Thanksgiving Day fragrance or Christmas fragrance. It has spices in it, star anise and nutmeg, and there's a pepperiness to it as well. It's also sweet in that it has vanilla and it has tonka bean. Absolutely gorgeous together, the spiciness with that like sensual sweetness, and it also has ylang-ylang and rose in it to give it a little bit of a floral nuance. When I first tried it on, it was a little bit too much of the licorice, which star anise gives you a licorice kind of a smell, and too much floral. But I had to let it settle down on me, and then I realized its beauty. It's very projecting and very long lasting on me. So for me, this is a huge win and a beauty of a bottle. So while Contessa is really a heavily feminine fragrance, I'm going to move over to a fragrance that has more masculine nuances. Although there is some sweetness in here, it is Sandal Granada. This is a gorgeous sandalwood leathery fragrance with a lot of honey in it and some really subtle rosy nuances deep in the background. Like just the lightest sort of wispy waft of rose lingering in the air in the background of this fragrance. By and large, this is a sandalwood fragrance with heavy honey and a nice sort of line of leather running throughout this. I love this. I think it's really powerful. My husband is not the biggest fan of it, so I'll just put that out there for you. I like to share different people's opinions, but I think it is an absolutely gorgeous fragrance. It's very decadent. It's very rich, very appropriate for the holiday season as we go here into the colder months. I think it would really hold its own in the coldest of weather. Quite a powerhouse fragrance, projected for days and lasted all day and into the night on me. Don't spray heavily on this one. You only need a little bit. And again, this gorgeous bottle, a little bit of a work of art. So this is a big win for me also. Then I picked up Seta, which is a really lovely, soft, almost like ethereal to me, vanilla fragrance that has some myrrh and resins in it. Now, when you think of fragrances that have like balsamic and resinous touches to them, you tend to think of them as heavy. There's something really special about this fragrance in that it's a fragrance that I would describe as hovering. The vanilla in here is light and kind of leaves this really beautiful light scent bubble around you. There are the hints of those like resinous touches in here. And there's some nice amber touches to give it depth, to give it some complexity, to give it a little bit of heft without being strong like Sandal Granada. Like this one is thick and heavy and really has a lot of weight to it. This has a little bit of heft, but it still sort of lingers in the air, if that makes sense. I would call this a much softer fragrance than Contessa and Sandal Granada in terms of its projection. It's more subtle overall than those two fragrances. This is one where you want to feel delicate and feminine, but have a little hint of mystery with just like that touch of spicy balsamic thing going on, and want to have the vibe that you have that big chunky sweater on with like that sweet feminine scent underneath that's just ever so slight, and people have to be in your scent bubble to smell it. That's my experience with this. Perhaps others find it more projecting. I found this to be very moderate to long lasting. It didn't last me the whole day like the other two, but it did a decent job and went about the half day mark. For me, that's about 4 to 6 hours or so, and maybe a little bit past that. Would make a great evening date night fragrance as well if you're into those vanilla scents that have like a hint of spice and a little bit of depth to them. So this is absolutely a win for me also. I also picked up Jasminisha. I think this is fabulous. This is, when it opens, it smells a little bit like an aldehydic jasmine. So, and it's not an indolic kind of jasmine that has, you know, the rotting smell that some people don't like in jasmine fragrances, like that rotting floral smell. Not that. It has this really, I think, clean, again, to use the word again, ethereal, thin sense of like this laundry-esque thing happening along with the jasmine. As it settles down, you get some ginger that comes into the picture too, along with a sweetness in this fragrance. I find this to be a very alluring jasmine fragrance. My husband loved it. He thought it was really kind of one of those come hither fragrances that makes you want to lean in close. One thing I will share about this fragrance is that it's more on the intimate side, kind of like this one, except this one is even more so. The bubble is even more intimate. Definitely a great like snuggle kind of a fragrance, cuddle and watch a movie if you want to smell your best, most seductive feminine self. It's not a va-va-voom kind of a fragrance, right? It doesn't like enter the room and knock people out. It won't have people chasing you down, but it will have people close to you wanting to smell a little bit more, come in a little bit closer. So this might be like that movie fragrance or that intimate dinner fragrance where you want your significant other to lean in a little closer because they find your scent sexy and alluring without being overpowering and like slap you in the face kind of a thing. A really gorgeous, nicely done jasmine centered fragrance. Big win for me also. Then we have the Rosendo Mateus. Let's talk about these. Actually, excuse me, someone shared with me how to pronounce it. Rosendo Mateu. Mateu. It's not Mateo. You know how that happens on YouTube. One person says it one way and the rest of us all hear that, and next thing you know, we're all saying it the same way. Mateu. So this first one wasn't quite a blind buy, and it's not part of the 20 because of that, but I did want to share number 5, which has had a big resurgence here on YouTube. This had a YouTube moment, her like 15 minutes in the sun about a year ago. I got a nice decant of this from my beautiful friend Marcelina Teresa. Hey Marcy. And I had a hard time with it at first because I was like, what is this strange rubbery smell? But it's one of those fragrances that when it settles down on you, it smells really lovely. I had a little bit of a joke about this in my last monthly fragrance awards video, saying that it's a little bit overhyped. And that is not to say that it's not beautiful, because it is beautiful. However, people have been going like absolutely bananas, dropping out of their chairs over this, fainting over the smell of number 5. We know how things happen on YouTube, the hype around fragrances. Floral, amber, sensual musk, as it says on the label here, and it is a really lovely fragrance. That is not the fragrance I wanted to talk about. I do like this and I enjoy wearing this. I wanted to talk about number 6, which is jasmine, sandalwood, and musk. Folks, so I've heard a few ladies talk about this on YouTube and got really curious. I get FOMO just like everyone else. I have fear of missing out and really sort of have to temper my buying habits, although I'm not always successful in that. So anyway, this is a gorgeous fragrance. If you like sandalwood, you really need to be a sandalwood lover. You need to enjoy musk, and you absolutely need to enjoy jasmine. I find this to be a very sophisticated, elegant fragrance. This is that fragrance that makes you feel like you have your whole life together. So I just joked around about the overhyped number 5. I'm not going to overhype number 6. But I have to give it a little bit of hype because it's that good. It's that fragrance that makes me feel like I have the crispest, most tailored to me, gorgeous linen suit on. And I'm talking about like that winter cream, beautiful linen suit with the most sophisticated heels on. My hair is perfectly coiffed and my makeup is on point. And this is the fragrance that I would be wearing. It is so lovely. Again, you have to really like these notes, but this is divine. It's smooth. It's almost buttery with that muskiness in it. Yeah. Next 2 fragrances I talked about in my chocolate video, which posted, I think it was back in September, but they were blind buys, and I've been meaning to include them in this blind buy Chronicles series. So here we go. This next one, it's one that it's called Carnal Cacao, and it's by Maison Tahité. I have a feeling that this would be one that a lot of people would smell and just not be impressed with. They would just wonder what the big deal was. But for me, it's a really big deal, and I really love to put it on. I love the bottle. I think it is very aesthetically pleasing, this sort of amber colored glass here with the beautiful round lines and the gold top on it, and just the simple kind of like apothecary style label there, if you will. The fragrance here, it's what I want hotel lobbies to smell like. Hotel lobbies in luxurious hotels, you know, really luxe, L-U-X-E, luxe hotels, they have a certain kind of smell wafting through them. It would be like if it was that smell with an additional sort of amped up, like if you did that smell times 3, like powered that smell up, you might get something like this. It does have a nice cacao note in it. So that kind of chocolatey thing, like deep chocolate earthy vibe. It also has, though, this really clean, structured, soft tuberose note in it that I think is just divine. A little bit of hint of citrus from a neroli note and some ambroxan to give it a little bit of base as well. I think this is just lovely. It isn't the longest lasting. I get a good 4 to 6 hours out of it. The projection is sort of a couple of feet away at the most, but I adore it. It is something special to me. So I really like this. This is a big win also. Then I come to a fragrance that I have been personally hyping up a lot here lately. So I am responsible for part of the hype train on this fragrance. It's from Atelier Materi, and it's Cacao Porcelana. The name is about the cacao note in here. If you've ever had chocolate that is freshly ground, like from the actual cacao plant, you know what I'm saying. It has like this bitterness, this darkness to it. That's a little bit of what you get in here. The porcelana part refers to the smell that you get when you are working with fine porcelain and finishing it it off. You're sanding it off, the kind of scent that gives off, the powder of it. So it does have this kind of earthy clay thing happening. There's also rum, so there's a booziness, there's some patchouli for some touches of earthiness, and some florals. I find this to be a gorgeous, complex fragrance that I just adore wearing. It's a knockout fragrance for me personally. It's a little bit odd, a little bit strange, definitely not a mainstream fragrance. And I have this thing for bottles that have an architectural feel. They're nicely structured, and I just think this is beautifully done. So I won't go on and on because I've talked about this at length in a few other videos, but this was an enormous big W for me, big win. I also talked about the next fragrance in the last monthly awards. It is Vetiver Tonka from Boucheron. Actually, excuse me, it's called Vetiver Tonka de Canaima. I have a little bit of a cold, so excuse the nasaliness. Whoa, this fragrance is super projecting, super long lasting. I told the story in that video of how I put this on and thought that it had faded away. In fact, I was a little bit disappointed thinking, gosh, I purchased this huge bottle. It didn't last very long. I got a good like half a day's smelling out of it, which I think is the smell is fabulous. I'll talk about that in a minute. But later that day, like hours and hours and hours later, at about 6 or 7 o'clock, I met my husband out at Lowe's. As I walked down the aisle to meet him, he said, "You smell really strong. Whatever you have on, it is really, really strong." It was this fragrance, which is this really heavily almond-based fragrance with a gorgeous tonka in it. So you get this like really fluffy sweetness in here. There's a violet note that gives it a little bit of coldness and powderiness also, and sandalwood and vanilla. So it's sweet. It reminds me a lot of what I wanted Feve Delicious to smell like, which I like that fragrance. I think it's quite nice, but this is that on steroids, if you will. Really lovely if you're into almond. And even though cherry's not listed as a note, I get like a little hint of that, a really faint hint of a soft, like died down cherry note. I think this is beautiful, and I was really shocked at how long lasting and powerful it was. And I just love these bottles. You get 4 ounces in these big Boucheron bottles, so definitely worth checking out. Again, on discount sites. I think I got this on fragrancenet.com for a little bit over 100. Then, ooh, Psychedelic Love from Initio. Again, these bottles are mega expensive. I forget where I got this, but it was definitely on sale. I want to say it was like Aura Fragrances. Another great place to shop if you want some discounts, or Joma Shop. I don't remember, but I got this like in the mid 100s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 150 or something like that, and worth every penny. This is so good. Speaking of almond, like Vetiver Tonka, so almond's not a note that's listed in here, but there is heliotrope in here. And on the Initio website, it talks about this wavering between vanilla and almond. So heliotrope is this powdery note that sometimes comes across like an almond paste kind of a scent. And you get a lot of that in here. There's myrrh also, which gives it this sort of resinous feel. There is hedione, which is related to the jasmine plant, gives it this deep sensuality. This is from a line from Initio called the Carnal blends. And if you know what carnal means, it means of the flesh, which makes you want to do bodily things. So yes, this is definitely a very sexy, alluring fragrance. It has, like I said, those powdery facets. It's deep. It has a little bit of mystery. It's not like thick and overwhelming like some of the Initio fragrances can be. This one stays a little bit more on the powdery side, but does have some nice touches from myrrh and a little bit of rose and some other florals in there. One of the facets of this that I love the most is the ylang, which gives it a little bit of like a banana-esque butteriness that I think is just fabulous. So this is, again, a winner. Can you tell that this has been a fabulous blind buy sort of haul over the past few months? But there are some losers that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Spoiler alert, the next one is also a winner, and it is Ariana Grande Cloud Intense. I finally took the plunge and got rid of both of the bases for the regular Cloud and the Cloud Intense. This one has a white cloud, like literal plastic cloud that it sits in that looks like a My Little Pony playset. If you're an 80s kid, you know what I'm talking about. And this one had a blue one, and they were driving me crazy. They take up way too much room on the shelf. Anyhow, this is a fabulous fragrance. It is incredibly sexy. A lot of people liken this to the airiness and sugariness that they love of Baccarat Rouge 540. This one is like a very creamy version of Cloud if you've smelled this. I think they're both fabulous. I enjoy them both. I think I like this one slightly more for moving into the winter, whereas this one might be a fantastic summertime version. This here has this beautiful creaminess to it. There's a whipped cream note in here that I think is just fabulous. It's, I think, more pronounced on the coconut than the regular Cloud version. It has a muskiness and a woodiness and a little bit of an aromatic touch. And I think this is just gorgeous, very long lasting, really beautiful and versatile. This is one of those fragrances that I think you can, well, so is this one. I think you can wear these anywhere. I would just think of this as a bit of a heavier, creamier version than this one, and a big win. Happy to have them both. Sadly, the next one is a huge fail because I never received it. I ordered Shalimar Tonka. I have the regular Shalimar. I have Shalimar Soufflé. I have Shalimar Soufflé Incense. And I think I had the Shalimar Eau de Cologne, which is up for sale on Mercari if I haven't sold it yet. I don't remember. Anyway, Shalimar is a really challenging fragrance. I have tried the Shalimar Millesime Planifolia, I think it's called, the vanilla one, the really heavily vanilla one, because they all have vanilla in them, and it is beautiful. I didn't purchase that, but I was looking forward to Shalimar Tonka. Have heard great reviews on it, and then I've heard some mixed reviews from people that just aren't really into that Shalimar DNA. It's a tough DNA to get into for sure. But I never got it. Unfortunately, it got lost out in mail space somewhere, and the place that I ordered it from is trying to chase it down for me. So I hope to give you all a review of that sometime soon. Really disappointed that I didn't get to try that one out. The next one is a bit of a cheat because I did have a chance to sample it, and I actually ordered a travel spray of it and then went and got a big bottle because Sephora sale. Hello, when a Sephora sale comes around, there's something about that little cheap 20% off that just sucks me right in, and I'm filling cart. It's ridiculous because you can probably find bigger discounts somewhere else. But anyway, that Sephora sale conversation is a different story altogether. So you've heard me rave and rave and rave about Commodity Milk Plus, and I finally did pick up Commodity Milk Expressive, which, you know, people talk about there being big differences. I don't think there's huge differences between these. This one I would say is deeper, a little sort of thicker and woodier, and definitely more beast mode, whereas this one stays a little bit more in the cloud-like direction in terms of its texture. It's a little fluffier, it's a little bit more on the marshmallow side, and doesn't have quite the heavily woody nuances that this one does on the dry down. But these are both delectable, delicious, awesome fall gourmand fragrances that will do well here in the winter. These are like your classic, like if you're into the whole Netflix and chill idea, putting on a beautiful fragrance to cuddle up with your boo and watch a great movie. These are fabulous. So I'm really excited to have Milk Expressive joining its louder sister Milk Bold. FragranceNet.com also had a big Merchant of Venice sale. Those bottles are just gorgeous. I had been eyeballing them and just didn't want to pay full price for them. I picked up two. We'll start with the Andalusian Soul, which, gosh, this is such a pretty vanilla fragrance. In fact, I'm overdue for a vanilla video. Maybe I will do one in December or January. I have amassed a massive collection of really fantastic vanilla fragrances. You can't really see it here, but there's an ombre effect on this bottle that I think is just gorgeous. The shape of these are pretty. This is a boozy vanilla. There's a really heavy rum note in here. There's a lot of amber in this vanilla. I detect some woodiness in here too. And vanilla, did a little spray here. It has this, like, okay, people talk about fragrances smelling like Play-Doh. And Play-Doh isn't necessarily a good thing. Like in Hypnotic Poison, the Play-Doh is like a flat Play-Doh that can be a bad thing. I actually love the smell of fresh Play-Doh when you first pull open the top on the little bottles when you were a kid, not after it had dried out, just that first initial blast of that Play-Doh smell. There's something like really fun, happy, and intoxicating about that smell. I get a touch of Play-Doh in here but the fresh Play-Doh when you first pull the top off, which I actually like a lot. But by and large, this is a heavily boozy, rummy vanilla with a lot of amber. It's a deep, beautiful vanilla that plays really well on the skin. I think this is a fabulous fragrance, so this is a big win also. The second Merchant of Venice fragrance I talked about in my tobacco video, and it's called Arabesque, which I think is a lovely fragrance for ladies who are interested in a tobacco note, but you don't want to smell masculine. This is not a masculine leaning fragrance. It's pretty unisex. Well, it depends. If you're into really sweet fragrances, like ladies fragrances, way over in the sweet and floral direction and all of that, you might think this is a little bit on the masculine side of unisex. I find this perfectly unisex. I find this to be a very linear, clean, crisp tobacco fragrance with some spices in it and a little hint of sweetness even. So, and I love the bottle. I think it's really pretty. So this is a win. I would say of the two, I prefer the Andalusian Soul, like if I had to choose one of the two, but this is definitely a really nice fragrance also. I picked up Amore Central from Juliana's Perfumes, which is a dupe of Santal Complet from Fragrance du Bois. I think this is fabulous. I've smelled Santal Complet. It is really a nice fragrance. It's fleeting. It doesn't last long. This one, you'll get at least a good half a day, maybe a little bit more out of it. I think it was a 4 to 6 hour fragrance. I've heard other people say that this lasts forever on them. This is a lovely, sensual, soft, almost musky sandalwood with what I perceived to be like a toasted coconut note. It even has like hints of aromatic touches deep in the background, but by and large, a sandalwood and really soft toasted coconut fragrance that I think is quite sexy, close to the skin. If you have been interested in Santal Complet and just can't bring yourself to pay that price, check out Amore Central. Really nice dupe. Very well done. I did a reel about this next one on Instagram. When I got it and I tried it out, I thought this is so pleasant and nice. This is a beautiful everyday fragrance. It's simple. Look, here's the thing about fragrances sometimes. There's a lot of things that drive me crazy about fragrance reviews. But one of the things that drives me crazy is when reviewers, myself included sometimes, so I count myself in this ridiculousness, we expect every bottle that we come across to knock our socks off. And I think that's really, really an unfair bar to set for fragrances. That happens because you smell so many that you almost become like indifferent to them. There might be a beautiful fragrance that comes your way that you have just convinced yourself, oh, it's boring because it smells like others. So anyway, I think this next one could fall into that category for people that have to have every fragrance just blow their minds. Anyway, it's 22 Oris from Letta. This is the first launch of a woman named Stephanie Letta, who has a YouTube channel, and I've been watching her for years. She does makeup and she's been doing fragrance reviews since before fragrance became a big thing on YouTube. Like, she's been in the game for a long time. And she just has this really pure love of fragrances that she likes. It's not that complicated. And neither is this fragrance. This is not a complicated fragrance, but it's pretty. It's so nice. It's beautiful in its simplicity. It definitely has some nice buttery, musky orris touches. There's a marshmallow musk in here that gives it this sweetness also, and this beautiful light floral touch to it. It reminds me somewhat of Bare by Victoria's Secret. It doesn't smell alike, but it's in that same sort of genre of fragrances that you could really rock every day because they're just pretty simple fragrances. And I really like the bottle that she selected and the cap and everything and the label. So well done on a first launch from a beauty YouTuber. I think this is super pretty. So congratulations to her. And this is a keeper for me. This next fragrance I like a lot. I'm not sure if I love it, but I definitely like it enough to keep it and continue to try it. I enjoyed it when I wore it. The thing I would say is challenging for me is that when I sniff it, it makes me feel like the back of my throat is really dry. So it's called Choco Violette, and this is from Mancera. If you have Mancera fragrances, you know that they're pretty potent and very long lasting for the most part. This one here is a combination of dark chocolate, like a really strong, heavy cacao based dark chocolate, and violet and hazelnut together. There's vanilla in here for sweetness too, but by and large, you get that like cool, cold, crisp violet thing happening, the dark chocolate, and like a really like a crushed hazelnut kind of a smell. It's peculiar and it's cold. It reminds me a lot of Balenciaga Paris in the sense that it's a structured, cold smell. It gives you like that cold librarian kind of a vibe. Pretty fragrance, long lasting, unique. You will smell unique with this on. I do like it. I'm not sure if I completely like am, in love with it, and that's okay. I do like it enough to keep it, and great for the season and great for going into winter. And my scent of the day, I'm smelling really friggin' good today. And it is Sol Cheirosa, which I didn't think I was going to pick up. In fact, I said in a previous video that I didn't feel like I needed to pick this up because I have Brazilian Crush and the Boom Boom Cream, which together are just out of this world, divine, delicious, gourmand heaven. But the Brazilian Crush is pretty heavy on the pistachio notes and the caramel, whereas this one here has a pretty significant caramel base to it, I think, and a lot of vanilla. It's just a deep, like ooey, sticky sweetness in here that I really like. It's a very, very nice fragrance. The one that I had tried before in Sephora, I think this has been reformulated. At least that's what I understand. The original one that I tried was gorgeous, just not very long lasting. I'm hoping this one will last longer. I'm about 4 hours into this and still smelling myself, so that's positive. And I also layered it with Brazilian Crush Cheirosa 71. So these two smell very much the same to me. This one is a deep, sweet body spray version, even more syrupy. This one is a tad bit more perfumey, but very, very similar. You put this over that Boom Boom Cream and you are just a gourmand dream. I do like this bottle with like the disco ball top. I think it's super cute. So this is a win for me, and I did get this on sale during the Sephora sale. I'll close out this video with two fails. The first is from Seven Virtues, and this is Vetiver Eau. The reviews on this were fantastic. It was a green dream. It was, fresh and reminded people a lot of like Chanel number 19 and grassy fragrances that have aromatic touches. So I was really looking forward to something like that. Unfortunately, this smelled really bad on me. I don't always do well with vetiver. It's a challenging note for me. In some fragrances, it's okay. And in others, it just smells just off. Just something really strange about it for me. This one here was just, it smelled almost like animalic green for me. Hard to describe. Yeah, even from the cap, it smells like that whole urine thing going on. And it's just a no. So sadly, I'm going to have to take this one back. This was a big fail for me. And the other big fail for me, and I'm really sad about this because I was looking forward to falling in love with this one. It's called Milk from Dead Cool. Also one that I got from Sephora. So this is supposed to be one of those like Juliet Has a Gun, not a perfume kind of fragrances, or essential molecules. Essential molecules, is that what it's called? Oh, what? Any of those essential molecules fragrances where there are notes in it that some people smell and some people don't. I must be one of those people that just doesn't. I had the same experience with another 13 from Le Labo, where I could smell like just a faint, really pleasant skin scent, but it was so faint that it wasn't even like worth wearing for me. Perhaps other people can smell them strongly. Dead Cool, I had the same experience with. It was very pleasant. The little itty bitty, tiny, thin, pitiful little waft of scent that I got from that fragrance, and I doused myself in it. It's a very oily fragrance, so you're going to be oily and you're not going to give me any kind of scent at all that's substantial that I could smell. It was a big no for me, and I was really disappointed because that is one that had like tremendous reviews, people just raving about how wonderful it is. It's their signature scent. They've been through multiple bottles. They can't go on without it. And here I couldn't start with it because I couldn't smell it at all. So that one was a huge fail for me. So that brings me to the end here. Have you tried any of these fragrances? And if so, what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with me? I'd love to know your opinion on these. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And again, happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season again. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.